and more on Daniel Sachs.
Yes, so earlier in the show, we looked at the Daniel Sachs Foundation and the Multitudes Foundation, which is one of its key initiatives focused on breaking traditional power structures, in their own words. We're now going to look at where Daniel Sachs's interests meet the institutions. We're going to look at two organizations with similar names, Apolitical and the Apolitical Foundation. Now, just to dig into the word, right, this is important, what's being communicated to us here. Apolitical, one word, means not political. But if you look at the weighting in the text, we can get the logo back up onto screen, you can see that the A and the political have actually got different weighting. I think this is deliberate. And actually what we're looking at here is a political foundation for global governance. Yeah, nothing short of that. Now, I said that these two organizations were linked to each other. This is their own slide material that I'm showing to you here. Their democracy flywheel. I don't really understand quite what they're getting at here, but this is how they talk about what they do. And the most important thing for us to look at is the Apolitical Foundation being focused primarily on politicians.
Sorry, Ben, sorry. Can I just interrupt there a second? Because I'd like to see where in the bottom right-hand corner where it says the people. Does that mean you and me? Or is this an organization called the people?
Well, that is a good question. I think it means the people that they can get behind their agenda. That's probably what it is, because the actual mass population, if it really understood what they were doing, would not be going along with this at all, which is why they need organizations like Multitudes Foundation, who are actually there deliberately to break traditional social structures, right? That's literally what it's there to do, so that they can then bring in a new political class who have been targeted and groomed and trained by the Apolitical Foundation, as well as civil servants who are actually doing the work within central government, who have been groomed and trained by Apolitical. And this is absolutely everywhere. This is systemic, this organization. I'll get into it. Right, so let's focus first on Apolitical Foundation. They talk about restoring hope in political leadership when we need it most. We really need great politicians, and they really do pander to the ego of the political classes. They tell them they're rock stars, when in reality, most of them are narcissistic and venal and compromised, right? But Apolitical is there for them. They've got a big global accelerator program to bring new types of politicians into the political system, non-partisan, i.e. uniparty, right? When you hear non-partisan, it means uniparty. That is exactly what is going on here. They put out an extraordinary amount of content, thought leadership, this here about what they call circular power politics. And it's basically a guide to progressive politicians getting elected, getting into power, and then using power, wielding it to the ends of Apolitical, Daniel Sachs, Chatham House, and all the other organizations that he's linked to. It is truly international, right? Staggering when you get into the scope and the reach of this. They've got 170 countries that they're working in, potentially 500,000 people on their platform. A lot of this being delivered, coordinated out of London. London is a crucial hub for global governance. People really must understand that, particularly the Brits. Yeah, you've got to get a handle on this. We are right in the thick of how this thing is being coordinated and how it's playing out. And it's run by this woman on the left-hand side. That's Lisa Witter. She's the chief executive. She's an American living in Germany. She describes herself as a global citizen. And actually, she does say in the presentation that this slide comes from, that's actually a still from a video. She actually says, we may be in 170 countries, but actually I find it really useful to not think about countries at all. All of this is just global, right? This is the mindset that we're dealing with. And that comes from places like the World Economic Forum. She is a young global leader of the World Economic Forum, just in the same way that Daniel Sachs is. And who are they backed by? Well, a lot of the names that we're very familiar with, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Sigrid Rousing Foundation, the Open Societies Foundation, where Daniel Sachs would have actually signed off the investment because he's the chair of the investment committee, the World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders, and on and on and on, right? So this is one of the primary instruments being used by those organizations to transform the global system, right? It's absolutely incredible. And the audacity is mind-blowing. And actually, Lisa Witter does say that one of their values is audacity. And I think that they do a very good job of living up to that. Now let's have a look at Apolitical, right? So they're very similar. It's a lot of the same content. It's just a slight tweak in terms of how it's delivered and who the audience is. So this is focused on civil servants. They talk about being the place where public servants come to connect and learn. To learn about what? Well, all of the issues that you would expect. So it's climate, it's innovation, it's cities, it's local government, digital data and AI, equity, justice and inclusion, right? These are neo-Marxist terms being embedded into the political and non-political sides of the way that our government operates in the UK and across 170 countries around the world. This is absolutely huge, right? It's run by this woman on the left, another woman, Rubin. She's the co-founder and the CEO. She was also a Gates Cambridge scholar. We talked about Gates Cambridge last week and the influence that they're having on the university. Well, she's a product of that system. She's got a big team, predominantly women. This is a very female-dominated space, by the way. Apparently, global fascism is fine as long as it's wearing a pair of stilettos. That seems to be the approach here. Lisa Witter, who we talked about earlier, is also on the board. Robin Scott is a young global leader of the World Economic Forum as well. By the way, I think I missed that. Apologies if I didn't, if I'm repeating myself. And they have an astonishing array of advisors, right? I've just picked out 3 here, but they've got well over 50 people, extraordinarily well linked. And we've got Jeff Mulgan, Sir Jeff Mulgan, CBE, former chief executive of Nesta, founder of Demos, currently doing loads of work for the Rockefeller Foundation. You've got Paul Kirby, who used to run the number 10 policy unit for David Cameron and now runs global, or actually was running global government for KPMG. And also General Sir Nick Carter, who was until recently head of the UK Armed Forces, ran the 77th Brigade through COVID, and now works for Tony Blair, right? So we're seeing a lot of the same faces crop up. They're very well backed. So they've got a $5 million grant. This actually just came out this week or last week from google.org to train 1 million civil servants in AI, right? So this is a naked power grab, right? The way that I see this, they are radically retraining, reshaping, reframing political and civil servants to affect the agenda of the global elites who are backing this organization. And you can actually see there the pilot program for that AI Academy was backed by the Rockefeller Foundation. It's embedded right into the heart of central government here in the UK. So they actually partner with the Cabinet Office right next to the Prime Minister. They're doing that in close collaboration with EY, as we've talked about previously. So you can see that EY have had them on their podcast leading into tomorrow. And then Josie Kluwer, who's the EY partner leading the UK government programme to retrain 500,000 UK civil servants, is sharing apolitical content and possibly delivering joint programmes with them at the centre of UK government, right? Funded by Daniel Sachs, controlled by all the global organisations that we talked about. Just to close off, I'm going to bring Starmer into the mix, actually, because he's adjacent to this as well, as you expect. A lot of this relates to Democracy Next. It's an organisation we've talked about previously, also backed by Rockefeller Open Societies. They're focused on democratic innovation, sortition, citizens' assemblies, all that kind of thing. There was a fantastic hour-long video with Lisa Witter from Apolitical and Georgia Gould, the Mayor of Camden, talking to Claudia Chalice, who's the Chief Executive of Democracy Next. I'm going to put that on my Substack over the weekend, riseuk.substack.com. I'd love to show you some now, but I just don't have time. But essentially what they're talking about is using AI and democratic innovation to radically transform the UK political system. And Georgia Gould is thick as thieves with Keir Starmer. They're best mates. They're always hanging out. This is them back in April up in King's Cross with the UK head of AstraZeneca. So I think that Starmer, in particular, who wants to run the country, should be being asked some very probing questions about Apolitical and his relationship with it and the people behind it.
Indeed. Undoubtedly, we'll talk a little bit more on that in extra.